I mean, one of the keys of this game for me is that they can't allow to happen what happened the last time. They cannot fall behind. That they've got to stay with them. I mean, they can trail, but this has to be a one-score game going into the second half. Otherwise, it just forces you to alter your game plan. It allows them to tee off on Jalen. I mean,
We got a triple box working here on Birds 365. McMullen, McDonald, and Paul Domowitch of 33rd Team FB and PhillyMag.com jumping aboard with us. Damo, good to see you. John and I were just talking about something before you came on, so I want to follow up there with you. Doug Pederson giving his walking papers, what happened here in Philadelphia, and John's opinion that it came down to Doug taking a hard line on his coaching staff and Laurie saying, "Oh yeah, I'm the owner. You can't dictate to me here, otherwise you'll be gone, Doug." And that's exactly what happened. He's now out there on the trail again. He's already talked to a couple of different teams. He might even get a couple more interviews. He's certainly, understandable, one of the best candidates. Doug going to get another gig? Did he learn from his time here in Philadelphia? Will be better served as a second place head coach? How do you think the Pederson thing's going to shake out?
well, I don't think it's certain that he's going to get another job. I still think his best shot is Jacksonville. I don't think Chicago's a possibility. So there's a certain gamble when you take a year off. I mean, part of it wasn't by choice with him, but if he was more aggressive, he might have gotten a job right away last year, like Andy did coming in 2012 when he was fired. So it's not. I'd put the odds right now on probably 70-30 that he gets another job, but I don't think there are a lot of teams that are considering him to be beyond Jacksonville.
That's interesting because he is getting a lot of interviews, or at least a lot of requests at this point, Damo. And there's, what do you think the disconnect is there when you look at a guy who had such success, especially building up a quarterback, and at least until it went wrong? If you think about that, the Eagles used to call it the quarterback incubator with Doug and Frank Reich and John DeFilippo. And if you have a young quarterback like Justin Fields in Chicago or something like that, it would look pretty good to me. But then you have the other end of that. Matt Nagy's an Andy Reid guy, and he's close to Doug Pederson. Maybe you want the change. What do you think gets in these owners' heads when they start thinking about head coaches and they want the young, unproven guy than the guys who's got the Lombardi trophy in his background on Zoom?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably a very shallow perception of why they like certain guys. They have a look. They're vibrant. I mean, look at it. Everybody looks like Sean McVay. I mean, if you're a young coach right now and you're having a certain level of success,
you got a good stubble. You got a good 3 o'clock stubble.
Yeah, I mean, Doug, in my mind, if I'm looking for a coach, is a no-brainer. I mean, I hire him. He's organized. He does a good job. And most of these teams that are looking for coaches also have quarterback problems. So, I mean, what better guy to bring in than a guy who understands quarterbacks, who's had success with them. So I don't know what the deal is. I just know that sometimes when you sit out a year, it doesn't help you.
All right, let's talk about the guy who replaced Doug Pederson. That'd be Nick Sirianni, who's got his first resume season up there pretty damn good at 9-8, with not very high expectations. To be above 500 and in the playoffs is absolutely an achievement. Will he stay the course? He talked the talk yesterday all week, his 2 appearances about it's just got to be a process that you can't put too much emphasis. It's another game for the football team, which I say is easier said than done. Understand where it's coming from, but we all know it's a playoff game. And to pretend that it's not, I think is a little naive, or at least he's trying to get that inside his players' heads. If they fall behind 10-0, maybe 17-3 or something like that, and they're down by 2 touchdowns, and it's getting late in the first half. Is he going to be able to stay disciplined enough to know his best chance is still running the football? Maybe his defense lets him down a little bit, gives up a big play. You get a tip pass or something like that for a defensive touchdown. Might even not be that the Eagles are playing that badly, but a big play goes against them. Will Sirianni be able to stay disciplined and know that his best chance is still running the football down the Bucs' throats?
Well, if they fall behind 17-3, I think we can all go home. I mean, one of the keys to this game for me is that they can't allow to happen what happened the last time. They cannot fall behind. They've got to stay with them. I mean, they can trail, but this has to be a one-score game going into the second half. Otherwise, it just forces you to alter your game plan. It allows them to tee off on Jalen. I mean, they're not going to abandon the run like, well, the first game, Miles ran the ball, I believe, one time in the first half.
First half, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to see that kind of abandonment. But, I mean, if this becomes a two-score game, they're going to be forced to throw. So, that's why that's so important to, control the ball, keep and keep it a close game.
So you do your deep dive in the numbers each week for Philly Mag, Damo. So what was your kind of lead? And that'll be published later today. But what did you take out of this matchup? Obviously, number 1 ranked run offense for the Eagles. I think Tampa Bay's number 3 run defense. You got Vita Vea right smack dab in the middle.
Yeah.
What is your number 1 takeaway entering this game?
Well, looking at the last game, looking at Tampa Bay's success this year, Tom Brady is almost unbeatable on 3rd and 4 or less, and the Bucs are unbeatable. I mean, he leads the league in third down passing on 3rd and 4 or less. He's got. I mean, they have their success rate on in 3rd and short is like 80%. You get him beyond that. You get him in 3rd and 5 or more. This is not. I mean, because then he has to throw. You can't. You don't have to respect Fournette as much. They go to become an average football team after that offensively. And I think the Eagles need to, last game, Tampa Bay converted, I believe, 7 of 13 third downs. One of them was a kneel down at the end. So essentially it was 7 of 12, but like 6 of those were 3rd and 4 or less. And they converted 5 of those 6. The backbreaker on 3rd and long, of course, was that long throw to Antonio Brown in the fourth quarter that basically allowed Tampa Bay to run out the clock when the Eagles were trying to get the ball back. But so, I mean, I think that's going to be important on Sunday that they get that, they play well on first down defensively and hold Brady to put him in 3rd and longs where he's not as comfortable, where they can get an inside pressure on him and maybe sack him. So, that's the biggest takeaway from the first game to this one. I think they can run the ball on them, even with Vita Vea. They're a tough team to run on inside, but they're very susceptible on the outside. And I think that's what you'll see on Sunday. They're going to have Lane Johnson back. They didn't have him in the first game. They're going to have Goddard back. They didn't have him in the first game. Those are 2 pretty big weapons, especially when with Johnson out, you had to move Mulatto.
Jordan,
yeah. So now you've got him back where he belongs. If they don't turn the ball over, if they play well on 3rd down, they got a puncher's chance in this game.
All right, Damo, I've asked this of basically every guest we've had this week here on Birds 365. You mentioned who the Eagles were without in that first matchup between the Bucs and Eagles. Well, the Bucs were without a guy by the name of Gronkowski, who's been playing pretty well these last couple of weeks. There's no perfect answer, but give me your best guess scenario. How the Eagles going to try and slow, if not stop, Gronkowski?
It's going to be a real problem, Jody. I don't know that they can. Their linebackers have not. I mean, this is a team that's given up 13 touchdown passes to tight ends this season. That's not good. So I mean, no matter what Darius Slay does outside, we've seen the last 2 weeks that that Brady's going to Gronk again. Because he doesn't have anybody else other than Mike Evans. But he's got 200-yard games last 2 weeks, 100-yard receiving games. So he's going to go throw the ball to him. But even in the first game without Gronk, they threw it to
OJ Anderson, Cameron Brate.
For a touchdown. They've got Cameron Brate, who's also a very good pass catching tight end. So that's going to be a problem for that defense. They haven't been able to stop tight ends all season, and it's hard to believe. I mean, Gronk isn't the player he was, but he's still damn good. He's still big. He's still, if he wants the ball, they're going to get it to him. What they got to do is limit his yards after the catch. That even in the Washington game 2 weeks ago, that was a concern. You saw, they try. Their linebackers take so long to get to the ball, to get to the guy that catches the ball. You can't do that. You need to, if you're going to play that bend but not break defense, you've got to limit their yards after the catch, and they haven't done that all year.
Are you a little surprised, almost, since they lost Chris Godwin week 15, and obviously Antonio Brown, the way that's gone? They haven't gone to more 12 because they do have not only Gronk, they have Cameron Brate, they have OJ Howard. That's as deep a group of tight ends as in this league, and that can create its own problems, as evidence, especially with Tom Brady's strengths as a thrower at this point. And are you surprised they haven't gone to more of that as the season has gone on?
Yeah, I am, and I'm still not convinced that we won't see more of it Sunday. He completed 34 passes in the first Eagles game. 22 of them were to players who are no longer on that team. So you got to make adjustments and going with more 12, throwing to those two tight ends seems to be a logical way to go, because I think the Eagles, corners are certainly going to be focused on shutting down Evans.
All right. One thing we haven't talked about yet, John or I, or any of the guests we've had on, you might be a good guy to ask about this. Pressure. There's pressure on the Tampa Bay Bucs here. They are the defending Super Bowl champions. People in Tampa, and I'm sure within that locker room, want to see a back-to-back performance. The Eagles should have no pressure in this game. We know that's not the case. They made the playoffs. Now everybody wants to win. Martin Frank coming on and picking them here on Birds 365. Yeah, there's pressure on both teams, but much more so on the Bucs than the Eagles. You could even say the Eagles are playing with a little house money here, since they weren't expected to make the playoffs this year. How's that manifest itself on Sunday?
Well, Brady really wilts under that pressure.
Good point.
I just don't see it. I mean, you're right. The Eagles are playing with house money. I think they're going to be loose. I think it's going to be, regardless of how this game turns out, it's going to be a positive experience for them because it gives them a taste of this. But I don't think pressure is going to have any impact on the Bucs. Bruce keeps that team pretty loose. And like I said, I mean, Brady obviously is not going to be bothered by it. So I don't expect it to be a factor.
Dama, one guy who I love as a player, nobody's talking about, who wasn't there in the first game for the Bucs as well, and I loved his dad as a player as well, as Antoine Winfield Jr. He is, to me, the most underrated player on the Bucs, maybe one of the most underrated players in the NFL. A lot of the Eagles players this week have been talking about Todd Bowles and his ability as a defensive coordinator and his ability to shift from when he's playing a team, once and then come back the second time. Jason Kelsey raved about him.
Mm-hmm.
He's that moving piece in the back end that could create headaches. I remember the Joe Webb game, which I'm sure you remember. I always call that the Antoine Winfield senior game because he was really the guy who destroyed that game.
Yeah.
Blitzing off the slot against a mobile quarterback in Michael Vick. Is that going to be sort of Todd Bowles' ace in the hole, Antoine Winfield Jr. to try to stop Jalen Hurts?
I think it could be. Jalen's still learning. Still hasn't seen everything, and he certainly hasn't seen too many players the caliber of Winfield. You're right. Bowles is a smart guy. He's going to move him around. They're going to have to know where he is every snap. Jalen in week 6 had, next to that Giants game, the worst game of his of the season. I mean, I think he had like a 45 something passer rating. It was just, you guys know the numbers. It was an ugly day for him. He's gotten a lot better, but Todd Bowles is one of the best at exploiting things, and he's got in Winfield. He's got a guy that he can use in a lot of different ways. So that's going to be an interesting matchup on Sunday.
All right, I'm looking for places where I think the Eagles are at least on par, or maybe even have an advantage against the Bucs. How about in the kicking game? Jake Elliott just got named Pro Football Focus, made him the number 2 kicker in football this year. He's second team. Ryan Succop's not bad. He's a solid kicker. He's money in the bank on short stuff, but he didn't make a 50-yard field goal all year. Can this come down to a late kick by Jake Elliott, Damo?
It could, Jody, but my feeling going into this game is the more we see of Jake Elliott, the less chance Eagles have of winning. I mean, they've got to convert everything into touchdowns, and that's not been something they've been doing well lately. So, that concerns me. But yeah, I mean, if it comes down to a kick at the end, there's not many other guys I'd rather kicking, getting frozen by Arians and still going out there and kicking a game on the line one than Elliott. But
not going to be a field goal game, huh?
Better not settle for field goals. I agree with Tomo. Early, you can't settle for field goals.
Yeah, I mean it'll be interesting the first time Nick faces. Let's say they drive down and they're on the 8-yard line, 4th and 3. What's he going to do? We'll find out right then and there what kind of game they think this is going to be. If he kicks the field goal, then he thinks he can keep him. He thinks somehow the defense can keep the point total down and he can make it that kind of game. If he goes for it, then he knows he needs to maximize every possession.
And I think he's going to go for it, Tom.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be Brandon Staley, like 4th downs all over the place.
Yeah. And if you're a team playing with house money, that's the way to play it.
Yeah.
We got nothing to lose, so go for it. And plus it shows confidence in your offensive line, which is always a good thing.
All right. We typically don't talk about weather games, but we're going to be talking about weather. It looks like it's going to rain in Tampa, but more impactful than that, Tom, it looks like it's going to be 20 to 30 mile an hour winds. And that can really affect the passing game more so than the rain. Advantage Eagles if that's the weather forecast?
Yeah, if you assume this game's going to stay close and they're going to stay committed to the run, certainly. Then they're, I don't know how I would be interested to see how that affects what, the Bucs have the lowest run play percentage in the league. I mean, they average, I think, 22 runs a game. I mean, they've got Leonard Fournette back, but still they're going to throw the ball ideally under ideal circumstances. How does the weather affect that in their mind? Do they suddenly start to run it more? If they do, that plays to the Eagles because the Eagles can stop the run against them. They didn't do a particularly good job running the ball against the Eagles the last time. I think they averaged like 2.6 yards per carry on first down. As far as the Eagles, like we just talked about, I mean, they want to run. Weather's not going to affect that except for a slippery ball and maybe some turnovers that you worry about. But so I would think a bad weather day is a good thing for the Eagles.
All right, Damo. The Eagles hopefully are going to be able to run the football effectively. We all agree that's what kind of turned that season on its ear from 2-5 to winning season and making the playoffs was their commitment to run the football. They've had 3 different guys on given Sundays who have been the big dog, who have been the lead dog and gotten the most carries. The coach hasn't really come under much scrutiny because it's worked for him in this second half. It seems like all 3 are healthy going into this game. You can even add Gainwell as a 4th. I'd be blatantly shocked if Gainwell got the most carries this Sunday. But Boston Scott, Jordan Howard, Miles Sanders. Will the coach be second guessed if he decides to lean on one and they don't run the ball as effectively as they usually do?
Yeah, I'll be interested to see what he does because, like we talked about earlier, it's not easy to run on the Bucs inside because of Vita Vea and their linebackers. You have more success against them on the edges, and Jordan Howard is an inside runner. I mean, that's the only place he's effective. So, does this game neutralize him, and you don't even think about maybe even using him? I mean, Boston Scott's got a little bit more versatility. Kenny Gainwell. And Sanders, obviously, but I want Gainwell active for this game because of what he can do as a receiver. So I'm going to be curious to see what Nick does. Which does he go? Does he suit up all 4 running backs? Does he sit down Jordan Howard? Does he sit? I don't think he'll sit down Kenny Gainwell. I think they saw things in that throwaway game against Dallas that they really liked about him, both as a runner and receiver. So, I'm going to be interested to see who he sits down, if he sits down a running back.
I don't think he's going to sit him down because Kenny took over for Jalen Reagor as the kickoff returner. So at the bare minimum, he's going to be just the kickoff returner. But it is interesting to see if he's going to utilize him. And this will perk Jody up because over the past couple weeks, when we do get out to practice, which isn't much these days, and by the way, the Eagles are going in the bubble again, so we can't even watch practice today. Kenny Gainwell starts out with the receivers in individual drills, and then he goes back to working with the running backs. So that to me is an indication that they're going to pull something out at some point with Kenny Gainwell as a receiver. Obviously, he did that a lot in college at Memphis. Jody's talked about Jalen Reagor's not successful, and Quez Watkins and Greg Ward, JJ Arcega-Whiteside's officially out for the season now. Why not try Kenny Gainwell as a slot receiver? They've been working on it. He's been in. Devonta Smith let the cat out of the bag that he's in receiver meetings at times.
Yeah,
I sense a little craziness coming.
They've used more and more empty sets with him lately.
But they generally don't use them.
I know, I've been waiting 17 games for him to run a wheel route on somebody because I don't think there's a linebacker in this league that can stay with him, and maybe they're saving that up too. I mean, clearly Nick's got some things in his bag of tricks that he hasn't used, but yeah, I mean, my concern with empty sets is with the quarterback. He's got to get that ball out quickly, and I still don't have confidence that he can do that on a consistent basis. I'd rather have somebody there that can offer some protection rather than an extra receiver, because he's got guys that can get open. He's got Devonta Smith that pretty much can get open at will. He's got Goddard. So, but yeah, I mean, we're seeing more and more of Gainwell being used as in the slot in empty sets like that. So it'll be interesting what Nick does on Sunday.
All right, last one for me, Damo. From well before the draft, I've been a huge.
Dallas would have been the hardest game.
So do I, Damo. So do I.
You're just embarrassing yourself, but we won't go there. Devonta Smith, loved him before the draft. Loved the fact that the Eagles got in position to get him. Set the record for the most yards ever for a rookie receiver for the Eagles. It kind of Weasley since he did it in the 17th game. But I don't want to open up that can of worms. But truth be told, Jamar Chase had a better year than he did. Truth be told, Jalen Waddle had a better year than he did. The two guys who were drafted before him had bigger years. Does Devonta get pushy this week about just throw me the damn ball? Because do you have any faith that Quez Watkins or Jalen Reagor or my guy Greg Ward are going to make the game-changing play here? It's got to be about Devonta on the outside. Does he get in his wide receiver coach's face, the offensive coordinator's face, and go, I'm the guy. Make sure Jalen and I talk, but you guys call the plays. Call my number plenty because I'm going to deliver us a win. Any chance that happens?
Well, I mean, we have to see what Tampa's going to do to try to defend him. I still think Dallas Goedert's the guy that, if you're looking for a difference maker in the passing game, I just think he's the guy they can't stop. With Winfield, I think there's some things they can do to kind of neutralize Smith. I'm sure we're going to see our share of bubble screens on Sunday again. Whether I don't know how many or whether they'll work, but I mean, Devonta hasn't had a disappointing season in my. I mean, a lot of it is dictated by the quarterback. I mean, Jalen went through some growing pains this year, whereas Burrow was just letting it fly in Cincinnati. So I mean, I think Devonta is going to be, the three of them are going to be right there as great receivers in this league. But Sunday, I'm sure Devonta wants the ball. It's just a matter of what you see from that defense, because Nick, like all offensive coaches, is a take what they give you guy.
All right, Tomo. We both know the Eagles wouldn't have a chance against the Cowboys, but they're not playing the Cowboys. It's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Let's pin you down. Who's going to win this game?
Yeah, take the points, but don't take the Eagles. I think they're going to keep it close. But they're going to have to walk away, fly away from Tampa with a moral victory.
All right. McMullen's got no choice. He's got to be here next week. You do. When the Eagles lose by double digits and the 49ers go into Dallas and beat the Cowboys, the kind of rain on your parade of, the Cowboys are
What we didn't say, we said.
McMullen has to show. I'm just double checking that you will show next week and go, yeah, maybe I overestimated the Dallas Cowboys.
No, here's what I said. I can't speak to Damo, but we'll keep you on for this. I said the Eagles don't match up well with the Cowboys, not necessarily everybody else. It's a sliding scale, Jody.
Yeah.
I mean,
the Cowboys sure as hell did kick the shit out of the practice squad Eagles last week. I got to give the Cowboys that much. That was a major blowout over the Eagles practice squad.
We got it. Damo, we have succeeded. We have Jody Curson again. We have succeeded.
You gotta love it.
Both ridiculous. Damo, enjoy the game on Sunday. Yes, we will have you back next week. Yes, you expected the show. And yes, you're going to eat crow. So thank you very much for coming on today and doubling down. Do appreciate that. You got nerve. Be back next week to face the justice.
Thanks for having me, guys. Take care.
Paul Domowitch of PhillyMag.com and also the 33rd Team FB. All right, I tip my hand. I'm picking the Bucs by double digits. So you got to come back and see what McMullen has to say. He and his Philly voice guys. I got a question for him about his placing in the list of the Philly voice pickers. We'll come back with our picks to wrap things up here on Birds 365.